The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys. Play to win, banksjones.com.
The Dave Hooker Show. A presentation of Off the Hook Sports. Objective insight, expertise, top guests. Available on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the Off the Hook Sports app. Download now for free. Also available on offthehooksports.com.
I compute and obey.
Now to Dave Hooker.
Ready.
All right, here we go, ladies and gentlemen. On a Monday, I hope you enjoyed the extra hour of sleep. And don't forget to vote. I may pull out my Donald Trump impression from time to time, as you do need to vote, whoever you vote for. And we're not going to get into that, who you should vote for. You can certainly find that elsewhere.
Write me in, guys. Everybody write me in.
There are plenty of people that will tell you who to vote for. The latest was LeBron. I just don't know of anybody that actually listens to any celebrities, no matter if they're endorsing who you typically vote for or not, that party. Does anybody say that, wow, that celebrity has changed my mind? And I really don't know who LeBron James said to vote for. I just saw that tweet out there. But anyway, we've got a full show today on the program. We're looking forward to it. Jacob Warren joins us each and every Monday. We'll discuss Nico Iamaleava. Did he prove he's elite or just show improvement in Kentucky's win? Let's go ahead and make that the poll question, if you don't mind, Caleb. Is Dylan Sampson becoming the greatest running back in UT history? 4 downs a little bit later. As I mentioned, Jacob Warren, this day in Tennessee sports history. The stat of the day, SEC power rankings, and the Week 10 college football recap. Give us a bit of a tease. What's your biggest story on the recap, Caleb, from the weekend? Is it Ohio State surviving? Is it Clemsoning? What might it be, sir?
It's actually chaos is in the SEC, guys. I mean, utter, sheer chaos is in the SEC.
Absolutely. All right, let's get to today's tough question. It's brought to you by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com. The show represented by Banks & Jones. Here we go.
Today's tough question. Take a side. Take a stand. The Dave Hooker Show, a presentation of offthehooksports.com.
All right, Tennessee beats Kentucky 28-18. We're going to turn this to Nico. Is Nico Iamaleava now elite or just better? Caleb, if you want to go first, go right ahead because I'm excited for this discussion.
Y'all know that I have never been one to overreact in this show, in the history of this show, right? I don't take bold stances.
I'm very by the way, who said Nico was going to win a Heisman and that Tennessee would win the national championship this year. And I think put some money on it, some of Quincy Calhoun's college money, I'm afraid. By the way, if anybody wants to super chat, you can do that. And it goes to Quincy Calhoun's college fund, just 4 months old. We're getting ahead of the game. Go ahead, Caleb.
I am way, way, way more right about one of those and looking very good for one of those, by the way. So, but I will say, yes, Nico Iamaleava showed he's elite. Tennessee fans should be excited about this because Nico Iamaleava didn't just... One, he had a stat line of 28 of 38 for 292 yards and a touchdown and no interceptions. Truth be told, that stat line should have been about 33 of 38 for 375 yards, 4 touchdowns and no interceptions. He threw 3 touchdown caliber passes that were all dropped in that game. The most notable play he threw was, Dave, I don't know if you remember this. It was on Tennessee's final touchdown drive, and I saw it on Twitter and someone shared it, and I forgot about it. Remember when he was rolling out and he made that pass to Dante Thornton on 3rd down?
Yes.
And that is one of the best throws I think I've seen a quarterback make. His throws were on target. They were accurate. He made the right decision 97.5% of the time. I just threw that number out there. But he was incredible with his decision-making. And he showed what he can be with, his coach talked last week about how he needs to get it. He did get hit a couple of times early. But more importantly than that, he had a reasonable amount of time to throw the ball. John Campbell and Lance Hurd both they weren't great in this game, but they were better than they were against Alabama and certainly better than they were the weeks before that. So what we're seeing is if they play a C+ to B- game at tackle, Nico Iamaleava can look like a Heisman caliber candidate. And if the receivers do their job, which they didn't over the weekend, Nico Iamaleava does look like a Heisman caliber candidate. And I think the most important part about this, where they're really helping Nico, that's helping him be elite, is they are finally relying on Brew McCoy as their go-to receiver. They are saying, let's try to get the offense moving by throwing a short out route, curl route, something like that to Brew and see if he can shed a few tackles and take an 8-yard gain and turn it into a 14-yard gain. And I think that's really helping Nico get his confidence going as the game goes on.
Let me ask you. Go ahead. So he is elite. I'm going to say he's improved. I'm not ready to say he's elite quite yet. But Caleb, I'll ask you this to your argument. And Caleb and I have a bad habit of strengthening each other's arguments. I guess we're supposed to be like Skip Bayless and yell at each other, but oops, he doesn't have a job. So, Caleb, to strengthen your argument, I would say this. I would say that Nico Iamaleava is better than Carson Beck, and the passer efficiency would prove that as much. So I ask you this, coming into the season and now, did you think that Carson Beck was an elite quarterback? And let's use that as the bar, because I'm going to go ahead and tell you, I said after the first game when I watched Carson Beck, and I know that they're playing another set of Bulldogs this week, but I do want to talk about this for a second. If you think Carson Beck's elite and could go in the top 5 picks of the NFL draft this year because he's a senior, then you better get ready for Nico to be in the top 5 picks of whatever draft he goes. He is more talented. He will be better. You're right. He was undermined by Tennessee's offensive line, which looks better now. He has played his position the way he needs to, and that includes not making mistakes. You know how many times he turned the ball over on Saturday with an elite defense?
0.
Goose.
Oh, yep, 0.
Goose. And that might well be the biggest stat of the game, because yes, he forced some stuff against NC State, but he learned from that. Yes, he's made mistakes with ball security, but that didn't happen this weekend. And if he just does that, 0 turnovers with this defense and this running game, ultimately Tennessee will have a chance to win each and every game they're in. So I'll say he's improved, and improved greatly. I'm not willing to go elite yet. But to strengthen your argument, for those that thought Beck was elite, he ranks higher in passer efficiency. Beck has thrown 11 touchdowns in the last 5 games through 3 against Florida. So I don't want to look too far ahead. And I know that's not exactly the topic, but a lot of people watching, maybe you included, Caleb, thought that Beck is elite. So he's elite, then you've got to say Nico's elite, because you can just look at the guys and see there's more talent with Nico.
Oh, I agree. I'm going to say this about Carson Beck, and you ready for my hot take? And I get to do this now. Carson Beck is what Will Levis would have looked like if he played at Georgia and not Kentucky.
I don't have a huge argument with that. And I will say this. I never thought I'd say this. He's a huge step down from Stetson Bennett, the second junior Esquire.
Yes, because the difference between Carson Beck and Stetson Bennett is Carson Beck tries to be Brett Favre. Again, whatever you think of Brett Favre, the person, and I think I'm very lowly of him as a person stealing from welfare patients in Mississippi. Brett Favre is the only quarterback that got away with making reckless throw after reckless throw in the NFL. Would you say that? The only quarterback that ever pulled that off.
The most prominent, for sure.
Yes. Maybe John Elway did early in his prime. I didn't watch a lot of John Elway like that, but Brett Favre definitely got away with more reckless throws than anybody. What you see a lot of times is quarterbacks who play like Brett Favre but don't have the arm like Brett Favre, Will Levis in the NFL. I think Carson Beck is that at Georgia. He plays like Brett Favre without Brett Favre's arm. And
I don't have an argument with that. And I'll say this, going back to the Alabama game, even though Georgia came back and played well in the second half, Caleb, I questioned his arm strength and thought something might be wrong with his shoulder. Now, I think he's played a little bit better, but not really. 11 interceptions in the past 5 games. So if you're going to say that Carson Beck is elite, then you need to say that Nico is elite as well. I'll give you some more proof after 30 seconds. The show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com. Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks & Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. They'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly, Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? It's Banks & Jones. T. Scott Jones. BanksandJones.com. Nico's pass efficiency ranking is 144.6. Carson Beck's is 143.9. That's 6th and 7th, respectively, in the SEC. For those wondering, Jackson Dart, Jalen Milroe, Diego Pavia at Ole Miss, Alabama, and Vanderbilt are the top three, followed by Quinn Ewers at Texas, Peyton Thorne at Auburn. So it's a little bit surprising there. But Nico's play has been better than Beck's. And Nico has thrown 4 interceptions. Beck has thrown 11. Here's the other factor to think about with Nico. He started 9 games. Is that right, Caleb?
Let's see. Tennessee is 7-1 this year. Yeah, he has started 9 games. Correct.
Okay. I counted it up. Carson Beck started 24 games. He should be way further along. We're talking about a senior compared to a freshman. And listen, I know that Nico's got a great ride, but I would offer this as well. Nico isn't getting on social media and putting up his Lambo to show to the rest of the world. And I think quarterback is the one position you don't want to do that. Listen, if you want to be Rob Gronkowski and you're a tight end, that's fine. But there needs to be a leadership role as a quarterback. Would Georgia trade Carson Beck for Nico right now? There's no question in my mind, Caleb.
Oh, absolutely they would. Largely because, like you said, Nico has better intangibles. And I don't think Nico, honestly, the truth of Nico is he's made some questionable throws. But Dave, I don't see Nico as a guy that tries to make reckless throws, right? Most of his questionable throws are kind of throws that the coaches asked him to make. Is that fair to say?
Yes, I would say that the bad read, which I referenced against NC State, that was also a factor in Brew McCoy was a little late to the ball or might have held up because he knew he was going to get smacked. And Nico's talked about learning from that. Listen, I said, I don't want to sound like a hypocrite. I said when Joe Milton ran out of bounds against Ole Miss that I from that point didn't think he could be elite. Nico did the same thing against Arkansas. But to me, they're very different in that I do believe Nico and the ball slipped out of his hands. I think he needs to strengthen his hands in the offseason. I told you before, you just take a bucket of sand and you flex your fist. Caleb, so he can do that, and he will do that, I'm sure. But to me, that was a young man making a mistake. Milton, at the time, was a senior. Oh, no, he would have been a junior when he jumped out of bounds. Caleb, that's not acceptable. He had played way too much football to not have the presence. It's two different things entirely.
Yeah, and I mean, can we say that we kind of believe Nico that the ball slipped out of his hands as he was trying to throw and then he held onto it and accidentally crossed the line of scrimmage? Is that a fair? Do you think it's possible that actually happened in that game?
I don't know. I not only think it's possible, but I think it did happen. I don't think he, as a young man, and I wouldn't either, has the wherewithal to come up with that sort of story on the spot right after the game, Caleb.
I could buy that. I think that Nico. I think Nico may not have. I think that was a bit of a panic, but I do think the ball slipping was the panic move. I don't think it was a decision-making mistake. So I'll give you that. Now, as far as what he did on Saturday, don't get me wrong. Unlike Beck, because people are calling me out on the message board on this, Nico threads some needles. He does. He's asked to do it a lot of times. And I don't know if you guys noticed this, and Dave, you may have. A lot of times he's able to do it. That pass that we talk about to Chaz Nimrod that should have been a touchdown that Nimrod dropped, he split 2 defenders to find Nimrod over the middle. Did you notice that?
Yeah, no, I did. What are we hearing on the chat board? Are people giving you a hard time about
I'm hearing about how he's thrown into triple coverage multiple games. And I'm saying a lot of those are designed calls that Nico did not He should have checked out of the original pass, the first read, but he didn't have confidence in himself in the moment because of how bad the tackles were playing. He was just quick to get rid of the ball. And that happens sometimes. And then other times, it's just Nico can make these throws, guys. I mean, we're going back to the Chattanooga game this year, but we forget, Dave, the start of the Chattanooga game, we came up on Monday and we said, Nico's throws are amazing. And guys, Nico went to tie for first in the Heisman race on FanDuel after the Chattanooga game for a minute because of the throws he was able to make. That could just go away.
I am going to say this. Game No Bueno says he is not asked to thread the needle. I'm going to disagree with you there. I think this offense gets people open. Caleb, I don't know how often he's asked to thread the needle.
Okay, I think that he's asked to make – I don't think he's asked to thread the needle. I think let me make this clear. He's asked to make certain throws that neither Joe Milton nor Hendon Hooker were asked to make. A lot of times those throws are well covered. When Nico was under a lot of duress because Lance Hurd and John Campbell were playing bad, he panicked if that first read that he was asked to make wasn't there. And a lot of times he just quickly got rid of the ball anyway in hopes of avoiding a sack. That's where you see him throwing into triple coverage or double coverage. What I'm saying is now you're seeing him willingly make a few difficult throws, but when he's actually doing it not in panic mode, he can make them. He split defenders multiple times last week, guys. And not only did he split defenders sometimes, he just threw. There were some cases where the receiver was extremely well covered by one defender, and he still made the throw. The Dante Thornton pass speaks for that. Nico can make certain throws. I mean, look, we talk about Hendon Hooker and how good he was in this offense, and that's true. But Dave, let's call it what it is. Hendon Hooker had way more opportunities for wide open, bare receivers down the sideline that you're just not going to see anymore in this offense. People have adjusted.
Listen, the biggest knock on Nico heading into the Kentucky game, and some of the message board posters may disagree, was his touch on the deep ball. That was the biggest issue. It wasn't throwing into coverage, which he did do against NC State, and perhaps it's happened a couple of other times as he's tried to get in there. I'm not recalling that nearly as much. And Caleb, if you want to interrupt me, go ahead. But I don't recall him throwing into coverage all that often, not any more than any other quarterback would be asked to do. Sure, you want to throw to a guy who's wide open, but that simply is not there. Dylan Sampson with a record-breaking night. We move on. 4 Downs brought to you by Medicare Misty.
4 downs. 4 questions. 4 answers. The Dave Hooker Show. 4 downs. A presentation of offthehooksports.com.
What did you think of Dylan Sampson on Saturday night as he becomes the all-time record holder for single-season touchdowns? Where does he rank among the best running backs in Tennessee football history? Because this just in, he's probably also going to break Gene McEver's all-time record for touchdowns. Caleb, I think he's about 6 away from that. We'll double check on that as I remind you that the one and only Cooper Mays is a part of the program. Thanks to City Heating and Air Conditioning, City Heating and Air, cityheatandair.com. Integrity matters, 50 years in East Tennessee. Coop, what should people do?
Cooper Mays here. Hit like and subscribe.
Boom.
Coop here. First down.
All right. First down is this. NFL stars Jamal Lewis, Alvin Kamara, Arian Foster, Charlie Garner. Is he better than those 4? Is that the question you have for me? Because I'm going to have some pushback if you tell me that Dylan Sampson's better than those 4.
So I'm making the case that Dylan Sampson could go down as the greatest running back in Tennessee history, guys. And I'm separating the type of running backs that are greatness based on your NFL production, your college productivity, and those things. So we're starting with guys that are more legendary for their NFL production. And so I named Jamal Lewis, Arian Foster, Alvin Kamara, and Charlie Garner. David, it's safe to say all 4 of those running backs are more famous for their exploits in the pros than they are in college.
Well, if you include Arian Foster's fumbling, then he's probably well-known in college. No, I'm joking. Yes, all 4 of those better in pro than college.
Correct. I think that Dylan Sampson as a Tennessee running back could be greater than them, but he's also going to be very good in the pros. I look at, of those 4, Alvin Kamara. Dave, do you see any reason Dylan Sampson can't beat Alvin Kamara in the NFL at this point?
I think he could. I think he definitely could.
And is Alvin Kamara not on the level of Jamal Lewis in terms of great running backs in NFL history? Just a different type of player?
I have trouble comparing anybody to J-Lu because he was such a physical freak. And let's remember that he's only one of 8 players, I believe, to rush for 2,000 yards. So if you just want to talk about, I've got one season, I've got one game, Jamal Lewis is my guy. If you want to talk about consistency over years, then I could make an argument for Charlie Garner, Arian Foster, Alvin Kamara. But to me, Jamal Lewis, perhaps it's because I saw him run a 4.32 in person at 245 pounds. Perhaps that's the reason, but to me, he's on an entirely different level than Sampson and the rest of these dudes.
Yeah, maybe on a raw talent, but I'm gonna be honest with you, Dave, comparing all these guys, and we're gonna go to some other ones. I don't think Jamal Lewis ever ran that hard, honestly.
Tennessee?
Well, at least since after his injury, and he didn't run hard a lot of times in the NFL either. Jamal Lewis,
I don't think he ran hard at Tennessee. So if you want to compare what he did at Tennessee to what Dylan Sampson did, there is no comparison.
Well, I was also going to make the case that, look, Jamal Lewis is somewhat of what could have been because, let's see, had the ACL, was it an ACL injury in 98 that knocked him out?
Yes.
And then he had a season-ending injury in 2001 before he had his 2,000 yards. So we're kind of asking what he could have been in the NFL if he didn't deal with season-ending injuries multiple times. He had 3 in his career, if I'm not mistaken.
No,
including one in college.
Fair.
So,
to me, Jamal, when he wanted it. Now, if you want to talk about the approach, then I'll take Dylan Sampson over Jamal Lewis. I think Jamal Lewis did save himself for the NFL. You pointed that out multiple times. I think he was a special running back, but there's a little bit of what if with him. But as far as being a leader, as far as knowing the individuals like I do, covering both of them, it's not a knock on Jamal, but I take Dylan Sampson. I don't think it's close.
Cooper Mays here. Second down.
All right, second down is this. All-time school rushing leaders, Travis Henry, Travis Stevens, James Stewart, Jay Graham. Would you take any of those guys over Dylan Sampson, or would you take Dylan Sampson?
Yeah, and guys, for the reason I named these 4 specifically, Travis Stevens has the all-time rushing record for a single season. Jay Graham is second. James Stewart has the all-time rushing record for career. I'm sorry, Travis Henry has the all-time rushing record for career yards. James Stewart is second. I would certainly take him over Jay Graham and James Stewart. Jay Graham and Travis Stevens. I know we have a lot of respect for what they did, Dave. I think they were total products of their offensive line. Jay Graham and Travis Stevens were. That you covered that 2001 team where Travis Stevens gets all the praise in the world. He had some of the biggest holes you'll ever see, didn't he, though, during that time?
Oh, he did that. And listen, it's not close. For those of you that think that Travis Stevens is better than Dylan Sampson, it's just not close. Dylan Sampson could have done everything that Travis Stevens did in 2001 and more.
Yeah, he could have. And the big thing, that the underrated part of the 2001 team was Travis Stevens ran behind Will Bartholomew, who wasn't an NFL player, but one of the best blocking fullbacks you could ever have at the college level. And yeah, and I think the same is for Jay Graham, because you actually saw this. There was a big drop off in Jay Graham's rushing from 95 to 96 after 4 offensive linemen went to the NFL. And James Stewart ran behind that same offensive line. Now, you could maybe make a case with Travis Henry, because Travis Henry ran so hard. I mean, it was the most obvious. I think 100% of the time there was a 3rd and 1, Travis Henry was getting you the first down. But Dave, you tell me, did Travis Henry have Dylan Sampson's breakaway speed? Like, if he got into the open field, could you be sure he'd score a touchdown the way you are with Dylan Sampson?
No, but I'm going to go ahead and say right now that I would take the cheese over Dylan Sampson. I thought he punished people. I thought he ran hard and opened things up later in the game. I think that Travis Henry is the one on that list that I would take over Dylan Sampson. No offense to Dylan Sampson. I'm
not here to disagree with you on it overall, but and again, Travis Henry ran extremely hard and he did punish people, significantly so. The most notable game of that is the 98 Arkansas game when they get the ball back after the fumble. And they're like, we're not even putting the ball in the air. Travis Henry had worn them down to a point that they were just like, let's hand it off every single play.
9 straight plays, if I recall correctly. I think somebody wrote a book about that. If you want to purchase it, it's available on offthehooksports.com in the merch shop.
And you're right. And Travis Henry's my favorite running back to ever watch at Tennessee because of how hard he ran, honestly. And he was almost impossible to tackle. So I'm here to listen to Travis Henry. I just like Dylan Sampson's elusiveness to a certain degree.
I get that. And he's a power back, and it's a different era. Maybe he wouldn't be as good or fast to the hole. Maybe he wouldn't read the offense this well, although I don't think it's really difficult. You're usually A or B gaps. Pretty simple.
Tennessee center Cooper Mays here. Third down.
All right, third down is this. And again, 4 downs brought to you by Medicare Misty. Other legendary backs, Johnny Jones, my all-time favorite. I go ahead and tell you that DSamp's better than him. Chuck Webb, no. Chuck Webb, if healthy, would have been better than most of the guys we've talked about. Tony Thompson, no offense, Tony. DSamp's better. Reggie Cobb, no offense, DSamp. To me, Reggie Cobb is much better.
Okay, you have me with Chuck Webb, but the truth of the matter is Chuck Webb did suffer those injuries. So, like, we're talking about what could have been with him. And so we have to be fair on that. So, but I mean, Chuck Webb was probably the best running back Tennessee ever had. And he Dave, let's be honest, I've seen highlights. He may have gone down as the greatest running back in history if he made the NFL. He was so elusive. I mean, he was Adrian Peterson before Adrian Peterson. Is that fair to say?
Yes, but let's remember this. Reggie Cobb was sort of in that vein as well. He had the drug problem that got him kicked off at Tennessee, and then he still had an okay career, even though I'm not sure he was entirely clean.
Yeah, I agree. It's hard. Here's why I have to kind of knock both of them a little bit, Dave. And don't get me wrong, the interior offensive line is great now too, but Reggie Cobb is kicked off the team in '89. Chuck Webb becomes a star. Chuck Webb then suffers that injury early '91. What happened? Early 1990. What happens? Tony Thompson comes in and he becomes an all-SEC running back. And Tony Thompson was not a SEC starting caliber running back. That offensive line was just that good. I mean, you were running behind, what were the names? Charles McRae and Anton Davis. And just, I mean, wasn't it the most massive offensive line Tennessee had ever had during that time period? And so I think you and I could have gotten 1,000 yards that year. Behind that
maybe 600. Line. Maybe 600. Let's get to 4 downs. The fourth down brought to you by Medicare Misty.
19 years this year. I've been in the community since 1993. You're getting a lot of information. Unlike when you were working, they made the choice for you. Now you have to make the choice. Come to us and let us help you make it easy. Call Medicare Misty, MedicareMisty.com or 423-777-5577. Let us help them sleep at night.
And we call her Medicare Misty.
SEC center Cooper Mays here. 4th down.
Where will Dylan Sampson finish among all-time running backs? Is this just our opinion, or is this rushing yards? Where are we going with this?
Our opinion and greatness. Go ahead, Dave.
Top 3. You got number 1, top 3, top 5, top 10, top 3 for me. Lock right now. And I'm going to say it's top 3. Now, are we doing this based off the production at Tennessee or just
based off production at Tennessee? Based off production, greatness based off, greatness at Tennessee.
Okay. I would say that to me, Dylan Sampson is one of the top 3 running backs of all time at Tennessee. And right now, my top 3 based off of production at Tennessee would probably be Sampson, Travis Henry, and I'm going to go one that's a little bit off schedule. I'm going to say Chuck Webb, which I know he didn't have the production at Tennessee because of the injury, but I'm going to say that I watched him and I just think he was a special tailback before his injury. So I kind of sidestepped your question. I hate to do that.
It's going to be number 1. And because Dylan Sampson is on track after Saturday, is now on pace to break Travis Stevens' single season all-time rushing record too. When you look at the end of the season, and you see Dylan Sampson is the all-time careers leader in touchdowns, the all-time single seasons leader in touchdowns, and the all-time single season leader in yards. Production. I'm sorry, he's going to be number 1. He's going to be number 1 in Tennessee history. By the way, and for those who don't know, running back, deepest position in Tennessee history. Forget wide receiver U. They're running back U if you look at their running back track record.
Or O-line U. But I would agree. Yeah. Wide receiver U is actually, or tight end U. With this guy, Jacob Warren. Look at him. Jacob, brought to you by Peak IV Hydration. We'll talk more about them. How are you, Jacob? What do you think about Dylan Sampson being one of the top 3 or best running backs of all time?
Yeah, I'd love to join the conversation. You guys be talking about it because it was for sure something that I wanted to say and be able to talk about. But we talked about it at the beginning of the season whenever he was, through 2-3 touchdowns a game, 4 touchdowns a game, just having a really good start of his season. And we were sitting here talking about it like, well, he really could, reach these numbers and reach the record and all this other stuff. And I mean, he's done it at 8 games, right? So, it's insane. It's amazing. You guys know how I feel. You know how I speak about him and how highly I think of him. So it was awesome to see him do it. And the way he did it too, man, the second touchdown he scored was just awesome. It almost the rest may have, kind of let him have it a little bit, let him play it out a little bit to see what happens. But we saw Nico behind him pushing him. We saw tight ends behind him pushing him. All the offensive line was supporting him, trying to get him in the end zone. Man, that just shows what it means to him and to this team and just kind of the person that he is. So.
Well, and I think too, Jacob, you have to factor in his leadership, which I've talked to Cooper about more than you, but I haven't heard of many running backs being tabbed as great leaders.
Yeah.
But he said that early about Dylan Sampson. So to me, that stands out. That's a tough position to be a leader at. It's not like quarterback.
Yeah. My opinion on it, honestly, is I wouldn't say I'll disagree with you saying it's a tough position to lead from. I think I know what you're saying. You're more or less saying you see that less often from your running backs rather than a quarterback. It's almost obvious for a quarterback to be your leader, but to me, it makes a lot of sense for a running back to be your leader. Like, I think there's a lot of accountability that comes with being the running back, right? I think a lot of, I don't know, I'm trying to explain it and how my mind's working, but he trusts a lot of people. Right, he puts trust in the O-lineman, he puts trust in the quarterback, but he's also relied upon to be that guy that, you want your leader, you want your top dog, you want the one person that's in front of the team all the time to be the one that you hand that ball off for him to go get whatever you guys need to get, right? I think that's a cool dynamic that he has. Is like, there's really no question who wants the ball on 3rd and short and who we want to give the ball to on 3rd and short. It's pretty obvious, right? I think, that's a cool place to be. And for him to be able to be at the front of all of it and say, yeah, like, put that on me, like, put it on my back, put it in my hands. Like, I am leader of this team. I will literally carry us, right? But I'll carry us to this success, whatever it may be. And he's done it literally every single week. So like, it's awesome that, Coop obviously thinks very highly of him as a leader, but being on that leadership council for a few years, like, from the moment he stepped into the room, he was one of our kind of, younger guys. We were trying to teach him how to be a leader, but he was one of those guys that you didn't really have to teach him much. You know what I'm saying? He kind of just stepped in and was very confident, was very, knowledgeable, understood who he was, and was just happy to be a part of our team. And now he is, he's the bell cow. So.
Absolutely. I tell you what, we want to talk about Tennessee making sure they look at the right Bulldogs, because it's Mississippi State this week, although a lot of us want to think about the other Bulldogs that wear red in just about 12 days. So Jacob, hang tight. Give me 2 minutes. Jacob's appearance brought to you by Peak IV Hydration. We'll tell you more about them with Caleb Calhoun. I'm Dave Hooker. The show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com.
I've been in business actually 19 years this year. I've been in the community since 1993. You're getting a lot of information. Unlike when you were working, they made the choice for you. Now you have to make the choice. Come to us and let us help you make it easy. Call Medicare Misty, MedicareMisty.com or 423-777-5577. Let us help them sleep at night.
And we call her Medicare Misty.
Now in its 45th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Neubert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that.
Joe Neubert Collision Center.
Are you ready to get strong? At NFC, we offer top-notch weight training and functional fitness, so you can build strength and improve your performance. Join today at NFC1.com or stop by any one of our 7 East Tennessee locations.
When the lights turn on and the game begins, you need a team you can rely on. Ray Varner Ford and Clinton's strong lineup of vehicles is crafted with the same dedication and hard work that drives our community. Experience quality and value in this pre-owned 2024 Ford Maverick XLT all-wheel drive, $31,990. 23 Ford Expedition 4x4 Limited, $66,590. 2023 Ford F-150 XLT Super Crew 4x4, $47,995. Local you trust, pre-owned vehicles you can afford. Ray Varner Ford, built for the game.
Why Banks & Jones? Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks & Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. They'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly, Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? It's Banks & Jones. T. Scott Jones. BanksandJones.com.
What's up, everybody? This is Jacob Warren asking you to like, subscribe, and share. Dave needs this.
The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys. Play to win, BanksJones.com.
Who's this guy?
Hello, who is it?
The Dave Hooker Show,
Who?
a presentation of Off the Hook Sports.
What?
YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the free Off the Hook Sports app. Back to Dave Hooker.
I'm just going to throw this one at VFL Jacob Warren. It's actually a super chat on our YouTube page. Jacob's appearance brought to you by Peak IV Hydration. We're going to talk about not overlooking Mississippi State. So we'll tell you more about Peak IV Hydration. But Timothy decided to throw a super chat in there. So we want to get to that, as all super chats will go to 4-month-old Quincy Calhoun's college fund. Jacob, Timothy said, I have a complaint for sports writers saying that Kettleman, I think he means Kitzelman, should have held on to the ball after getting blown up. You're wrong for that. I think that pass was a little bit late. So I kind of had it at 50-50. He's talking about, you know what play I'm talking about, Jacob. What did you think of that?
Again, I think that it is the quarterback's job to put the ball in a position to where you can catch the ball, right? You know, I think if you do get your hands on the ball and it's realistic for you to, you know, have possession of the football, you know, I think it's always a possibility that you come down with it. You see people make insane catches all the time, but you also see stuff like this happen where, like, let's be real, you know what I'm saying? Like, it is just what it is. And so, I don't know, dude, you can say whatever I guess you want to say, you know what I mean? And I think until you're really in that position, it's kind of hard to tell whose fault it was. You know, obviously Miles is probably like, dang, like that's on me. But then Nico also, when he goes back and looks at the film, would be like, dang, that's on me. You know what I mean? I think that once you have that level of I guess understanding and of accountability and just of trust with each other, you know, Nico, I 100% guarantee you went up to him and was like, hey, like that one's like, sorry, yeah, got to give you better, got to be earlier, got to be on time, however you want to call it. But at the same time, Miles is looking at himself like, I'm the biggest guy on this field right now, at least biggest skill position guy, right?
Right.
I'm the biggest one on this field right now. Like, if anybody can take that shot and catch that ball, it's me. So I think that's, you know, that is the dynamic that you would see Sunday or after the game, or even Saturday after it happens. You know what I'm saying? That is the interaction I think that those two have.
Yep. I thought it was 50-50. Would you agree with that?
I'd say that's fair. Yeah, that's fair.
Okay. Peak IV Hydration. Go to peakivhydration.com. Live life to your fullest. Hydrate, rejuvenate, and elevate your health with Peak IV Hydration. South Knoxville and Sevierville, it just absolutely works, Jacob. And people need to know that. They need to know the locations. We'll drop the URL in the chat. And they also need to know that with Peak IV Hydration, you can order that patch. And I've used the patch for energy, and it's consistent, like an 8-hour energy boost throughout the day. And you've gotten the IV before. PeakIVHydration.com works. Yeah,
and I think that exactly what you said earlier is that people just need to know about it. Obviously, that's what we're here for, is to let you know about it. But knowledge is power, man. I think something about this is people are a little bit skeptical. People are a little bit, you know, on the fence about it, but learning about it and informing yourself about it obviously is the smart idea. So, you know, obviously if that's something you're interested in, click the link and you guys can go check them out for yourself. But obviously me and Dave, great things to say about Peak IV. The guys over there, the girls over there are fantastic, and they've helped each of us in our daily lives. So we obviously recommend that you go try it out too.
Let me ask you a question about Mississippi State. Tennessee is a 24-point favorite for those interested in that sort of thing.
Caleb.
Which would be, Caleb. For
Caleb.
Sure. Caleb's a gambling degenerate. We thought
he's not talking at all. You didn't deserve that. I'm sorry. You didn't deserve that.
Right. He just got a Jacob shot. That was awesome.
Your teammates really let me down over the weekend. I had Tennessee.
Trust me.
Wait, not only did I have Tennessee covering, but I had the under. Guess what the over-under was, Jacob?
I actually don't know what it was.
45.5. Guess how many points were scored in the game?
Hate to break it to you.
It sounds like 46.
This historically great defense that I didn't think would let Kentucky cross midfield. I think Jacob told them, "Hey guys, just let them score like 18 points."
Just 18. 18 is all we need, guys. That's funny.
In all sincerity, and we'll bring it back to Mississippi State, 24-point favorites. Were you guys aware of the line? I know that coaches have used it before. I mean, were you guys aware that you're mega favorites or anything like that?
No, I think if you were to think about, okay, what do you think the line is this week? You could probably guess it to about 1 or 2 points, and then you would look at the box and you'd be like, oh yeah, cool, we were right. But nobody really pays attention to that stuff. I think a lot of people think people care about it and pay attention to it on that side of it, but I mean, it's one of those things where you've seen a line be at 24 and the team come out and get blown out, or a team come out and win by 50, or a team come out and not be able to actually score any points. So you see stuff like all the time, but it comes to a certain point where you just don't even care anymore, honestly, because it quite literally has nothing to do with what goes on. So
agreed.
Jacob, let me ask you this about Mississippi State, and you guys found yourself in this situation a couple of years ago during the South Carolina debacle. And what I mean is this: and I'm not trying to just rehash that game, but it was a night. It was a night game. You guys were in the college football playoff race.
Yeah.
And I think you saw this with Kentucky over the weekend. I unveiled for the first time last week Tennessee football's college football playoff rooting interest. I always wait till November because you have to see how things shake out before you know who to root for. When you play a team like Mississippi State that's not, top 25, not even top 50 really, and it's at night, how hard is it to get up for the game when you can tell me y'all don't, but I don't believe that you guys don't spend all day looking at the TV, seeing who's winning and losing that's going to affect your college football playoff hopes?
Sure. I think to be completely honest, we're all around the TV. Yeah. That's all we do. You have nothing else to do but watch the games before you and think about, okay, cool. So you watch Georgia. I don't know when their buys are or whatever. I don't know if they're playing this weekend, but yeah, of course. If Georgia is playing this weekend, you're going to sit there and you're going to watch the game, because why would you not? If you're just a fan of football, I guess, and you're just a fan of good teams, and you're going to be playing them next week, yeah, you go when you watch the game. I don't think it necessarily, I don't think it psychs you out, or I don't think it really changes your mentality. But I always kind of found enjoyment of watching teams either that we've already played in the season. So you would go and watch the Kentucky game this week and be like, oh yeah, that kid, I remember, literally looking him in the eyes last week. You know what I'm saying? It's almost just, it was really cool for me to just see, okay, this is this player I've been watching on TV for forever, and now I'm standing right here in front of them, and I either know everything he's going to do or I don't, depending on my preparation. But yeah, you've seen the story 100 times. You've watched the film and stuff. So I think, yes, to answer your question roundabout, yeah, we watch the games, but I don't think it necessarily changes the way you feel about your game or about the game the next week or whatever. But for sure, the entertaining thing to pass the time for a night game, especially when you're, feel like you're prepared for the game coming up.
What do you think of Tennessee's approach to Mississippi State? Are you all at all concerned that this could be a game in which they overlook? Is that something that happens in SEC games?
Yeah, I mean, again, like Caleb said, you see it all the time. You've seen it in years past with us. Luckily, it doesn't really happen all the time, or it doesn't really happen every year. You know what I mean? But it happens, and I think that it's just one of those things that you have to acknowledge it at the beginning of the week, and you say, "All right, Monday practice, this is not what we're doing. We're not gonna start, giving into this, whatever the media is saying, whatever people like us are saying about, oh, it's all about Georgia, blah, 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 whatever." We're not getting into that. We're here. We're focusing on this. Obviously, there's probably going to be some things that go in this week that might be for next week's plan. And they just kind of go in, and you're like, hey guys, we're going to practice this just in case we need to use it this week, but we're really thinking next week. There's all type of stuff like that goes on. But truly, you are it's 1 week seasons, man. And if you don't play that way, you get burned. And this team's been burned in the past, and this team will be burned in the future if that's not the way that you approach it. So if you learn from your mistakes, you know history repeats itself, then you can avoid that hopefully. But then again, you could also go out there and put a good game together, and Mississippi State come out and they put a really good game together, and now you find yourself in a dogfight, right? Because that's what this league's about, and that's what college football is about. So, you never actually know.
Jacob, when how much does it get more difficult too with football? As I'm sure you know, many teams that may start off the year horrible get better as the season goes on, but their record doesn't show it. How often do you guys run into a November team where maybe they were 2-8, 1-7, but what you didn't pay attention to was that they got better as the year was going on, and it just didn't show up in their record, and then it caught you by surprise?
Yeah, I think, luckily for us right now, I think the same thing could be said about a Tennessee team that's trying to find their way. You know what I mean? Like if this team played Tennessee at the beginning of the season, well, I guess we scored a lot of points in the beginning of the season, not quite scoring as many points as we were then, but I think it is trends, and I think if you're smart, you look at stuff like that. I think that's a really good point of a team that their record might not show. They might only have 3 wins, but those 3 wins are the last 3 weeks. You know what I'm saying? That's a great trend. That's a great, I guess, sign for a football team. I mean, you look at, and I don't want to overlook them either, but you look at Mississippi State, right? And 0-5 in conference, 0-3 away games. You know what I mean? Like there's things that are just pretty consistent. Lost to a Toledo team that's kind of middle of the MAC. Like there's a lot of, there's a lot of things you look at, and it's just like how, if we go out there and just handle what we're supposed to handle, it shouldn't matter. You know what I mean? How they're trending or how they're playing right now. Like we have better players and we have a better scheme, and truly just with the environment being at home, like it should be something that the team's able to easily handle.
Now, and I look at this Mississippi State team, and it's worth noting that I think Caleb said they would be one of the surprise teams in the nation before the season. Is that right, Caleb?
I'm a believer in Jeff Levy. And
wow.
Guys, this is a bad year for me. We're just going to
listen. Wow. Levy's a good coach, man. He's a good coach.
Yeah, he's got the Cowboys going to the Super Bowl too, I believe.
I do not. By the way, I got Will Levis right. I said he was a terrible draft pick, and I'm a Titans fan, so kind of nailed that one.
Yeah.
By the way, Jacob, did you see the clip where Dak Prescott was saying we bleep and stink?
Of course. Yeah.
Have you ever been, not with Hypo, but previously in your career, have you ever been in the middle of a game thinking,
nope,
oh my Lord, we're horrible?
Nope. Never happened. Never happened.
Not one time.
Jacob, I'm going to challenge you on that. You're telling me during the Jeremy Pruitt years where you guys.
Here you go. See you guys.
Getting back to State for a second, you've obviously done some homework on them. How much homework have you done on Georgia, or have you even seen them? Because I think they're a quarterback, which is a big hurdle, a quarterback away from being the best team in the country. I'm just not high on Carson Beck. You?
Played against him for a while, obviously. Played against a lot of good quarterbacks at that school specifically. Again, obviously he's getting the job done for them, and they're winning games and they have a good team, and they're still considered one of the better teams in the nation. I think just for that alone, I think obviously he's a good quarterback, right? But I do understand what you're saying, and it seems like those teams that just feel unbeatable have always had a Stetson Bennett, have always had a Bryce Young, have always had a Tua Tagovailoa, has always had these guys that are just nationally known as the best quarterback, and there's no debate, there's no ifs, ands, or buts, and I don't think he really fits into that category right now. You know what I'm saying? And that's no shade against him. Like I said, he's doing everything he needs to do as far as putting the team in position to win games. But no, I think that's one of the big reasons why I feel this team is very beatable. Is just purely based on the fact that they don't have that guy back there. And we'll see how it shakes out. Everybody talks about their defense versus their offense. Everybody talks about our defense versus our offense. So it'll be good to see kind of these two juggernauts collide, I guess, if you will, and see how our defense holds up. But I think you get back to them. I think, again, here we are, dude. What are we doing, Dave? Why are we talking about Georgia, man? It's Mississippi State week. We're talking about Georgia.
I messed it up. You can do that in the media now.
Yeah, I can do it now. But no, I think you get back to them a few times. You kind of rattle that offensive line a few times, and the defense takes over just like it has in the past. And if they're able to do that, I think that they give themselves a really good chance. Hit your deep balls, efficient run game, you'll have a good chance of winning that one. But
we'll share this question from Timothy on the super chat. Why can't Heupel ever go under center for red zone scoring or running for 3 yards or clocking the football? I think he has gone under center quite a few times.
Yeah. That's one of the things I praise about Josh Heupel is and Jacob, actually it's a random question I wanted to ask you. Like, he did that with you guys 2 years ago in an era where everybody gets in shotgun for a 3rd and 1, 4th and 1. How much do you, as a tight end, as a guy who loves to block, love the fact that Josh Heupel wanted to get under center for plays?
It's like it mathematically doesn't make sense to be in the shotgun on 3rd short, right? Just doesn't. You're subtracting 5 yards or adding 5 yards of total gain that you have to make to get the first down, right? And that's always kind of how I felt, especially when you have really, really solid interior offensive linemen. I think that's kind of your limitation. Some points is your short yardage game about how much drive, how much movement can you get on the interior, and how much penetration you can prevent on the exterior of your offensive line. So essentially, if you can build a shield on the outside and be able to actually push forward on the inside, you should get every single 3rd and short ever, right? It should like look at the Eagles, right? They have the strongest front three and they have the strongest quarterback in the league. Like, what do you think is gonna happen, right? It's purely just science at that point. But no, I agree with you, Caleb. Like, I've never understood the whole shotgun thing, and when we get into it, it's like I'm not gonna question it, right? Because if it works, it works. But I'll address, Timothy, I do kind of see what you're saying. There's been times when it seems like, why are we not under center? Like, we gotten away from that style of ball. But I thought it was really cool whenever it was, I guess, 2 years ago, and we got under center for like a goal line or like a short yardage or something, and like you could hear the crowd cheer. Like, people were happy. They were like, oh my God, is he under center right now? Like, just because that was not a normal thing. And obviously we're still perfecting it and things like that. But I think our 3rd down efficiency has been a little bit better. And I think we're starting to kind of figure that out. Red zone, you for sure want some answers. Just as far as, being efficient down there, scoring touchdowns down there rather than field goals. Obviously, it stings. Old Max, had 3 the other day that got away from him. Luckily, it didn't come back to hurt us. But you love to finish those 3 field goals with 3 points, but you'd also love to just finish them with 6 points. So we could talk about it all day, and that's going to be the epitome of what wins football games. So.
Yep. Jacob, great stuff. Brought to you by Peak IV Hydration. Again, Peak IV Hydration. Jacob, it works.
Yep, it does. And it obviously, go check the link, read about it, learn about it, as we mentioned earlier, educate yourself, make that decision for yourself whether that's something you want to indulge in. But we endorse it. We love it. Can't recommend it enough.
Absolutely. Have a great day, Jacob. We will talk to you soon.
Yeah, y'all take care.
Thanks, buddy. Jacob Warren, love visiting with him. The show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com. Also want to remind you that Quality Tire Pros served Chattanooga since 1957. All major brands of tires, full service automotive, brakes, alignments, oil changes, and more. QualityTirePros.com. QualityTirePros.com. Tell both that Dave Hooker and Off the Hook Sports sent you. We would greatly appreciate that. Caleb, it is time for this day in Tennessee sports history, I believe is where we're going. Is that correct?
Yes. 24 years ago today, it's probably a game that Dave covered in the godforsaken Liberty Bowl in Memphis.
I did. That's so strange. I was thinking about that game today.
They're like, that is total bullshit.
No, I wasn't because I don't think about the Liberty Bowl.
Well, Casey Clausen is a freshman. If you guys remember, in 96, Memphis shocked Tennessee 21-17. Probably one of the most shocking upset losses of the Fulmer era, right there with Wyoming. But even worse because Tennessee was actually a top 10 team in 96. In 99, with another top 10 caliber team, they needed a deep ball pass to Bobby Graham at Neyland Stadium to set up a game-winning touchdown to win 17-16.
The only time I've been in a press box where no one knew who it was, he was like the 8th receiver. And seriously, we knew 1 to 85 most of the time. But that's the only time that everybody in the press box was like grabbing a roster. I think I've told you this before. Like, who's that guy? Literally nobody in the press box, my competitors, my fellow colleagues that I like, nobody knew who Bobby Graham was.
Well, a year later, Memphis continued to be a thorn in Tennessee's side in 2000, which on this day 24 years ago was that game. And these were not good Memphis teams, by the way. They were like 4-7, 2-9, and 4-7, 4-7, 5-6, and 4-7 are the teams I'm talking about. But in 2000, Memphis almost reversed the 99 game. They scored a late game winning touchdown to go up 17-16, and it looked like they had the game won. And then Leonard Scott had one of his 3 great returns in school history to set up an Alex Walls game-winning field goal as time almost expired in a icy, rainy, sleet-soaked game that honestly is just some of the worst weather that had ever been witnessed. And Tennessee held on to win that 19-17.
I've said this before. If Leonard Scott, if they threw javelins instead of footballs, he would have been one of the best Tennessee receivers ever. Because if a javelin hits you, you're going to catch it. But he couldn't catch a football.
He couldn't.
That was the problem.
He also didn't really have agility, right? It was just straight line speed, wasn't it?
Yeah, but that worked.
I'll tell you where he would have been really good in Urban Meyer spread offense. You know, those like the Jeff Demps type of kids where Urban Meyer would run those quick reverses. Leonard Scott would have been amazing.
No, I like that. I think that's pretty good. If the Dave Hooker show was a bowl game, which would it be?
Well, we know what it'd be called, and we'd put it in Vegas, baby.
That's right. It'd be the Hooker Bowl. That'd be pretty good.
4 wolves running around Las Vegas looking for
right.
strippers and cocaine.
It'd be so huge that they fly strippers in from other places, which they actually do in big sporting events. Did you know that? Like there are escorts on the go, so to speak. So they'll go to they'll be at the SEC championship game. There'll be extra dancers and ladies of the night.
That.
Yeah, they'll travel from Florida. They'll travel from all over.
There was a very famous strip club in Memphis known as Platinum Plus that everybody from all over the country would go visit. And as a matter of fact, athletes, when they came to Memphis, loved going there. Unfortunately, the state of Tennessee, and we all think it's just because they just don't like the city of Memphis, decided to pass a law where strippers have to cover themselves, which kind of takes away the point of stripping. But like,
stay in Tennessee,
ruin the strip club.
Yes, that's right. It's like one of those non-alcoholic bars. This day in Tennessee sports history is brought to you by our good friends at Hound Dogs of Knoxville. Champions look good in orange. HDKnoxville.com. HDKnoxville.com. Could Tennessee's fan behavior cost the Vols in the college football playoff? Yes, it could. We'll get to that. Is Tennessee's ugly win versus Kentucky glass half full or half empty? What the H coming up? And I'll remind you, the Hemp House is the premier hemp dispensary online with a wide variety, great selection, and strict standards. Hemp House Chat with 2Ts.com. Hemp House Chat with 2Ts.com. Use the promo code HOOKED for 10% off. I'd appreciate it. HOOKED for 10% off. The show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com. 2 minutes and we'll be back.
Sports Treasures in North Knoxville is one of the South's largest sports cards and memorabilia dealers, featuring over 10 million sports cards from vintage to modern. Sports Treasures carries a full line of hobby boxes, singles, autographed memorabilia, Tennessee Vol collectibles, fan cave decorations, and so much more. See a museum full of collectibles at Sports Treasures, 4819 North Broadway in Fountain City, and Sports Treasures on Facebook. Sports Treasures, where the real sports fan goes to shop.
Community banking is about location and much more. It's about family. We reside in your community. We are a part of your community. At Commercial Bank, our commitment extends beyond the walls of our branches. It's displayed each day in the opportunities we provide, the money we give back, and the time we commit, all to help improve the lives of the people, families, and businesses that make our communities great. Commercial Bank, life made better.
With our brand new location on Emory Road, Eye Care Optical is bringing East Tennessee's best eye care to your neighborhood. Doctors Johnston and Combs offer unmatched expertise and care without a trip to Knoxville. Eye Care Optical, now in Powell.
Are you ready to get strong? At NFC, we offer top-notch weight training and functional fitness, so you can build strength and improve your performance. Join today at nfc1.com or stop by any one of our 7 East Tennessee locations.
When the lights turn on and the game begins, you need a team you can rely on. Ray Varner Ford and Clinton's strong lineup of vehicles is crafted with the same dedication and hard work that drives our community. Step up your game in this 2024 F-150 4x4 Super Crew STX, $46,994. 24 Ford Expedition XLT, $59,978. 24 F-250 Crew Cab 4x4 STX, $57,888.
Local you trust, performance you can afford. Ray Varner Ford, built for the game.
Why don't you shut the hell up?
No, don't do that. Wrong one.
The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks and Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney. Play to win, banksjones.com.
Who's this guy?
Hello, who is it?
The Dave Hooker Show,
Who?
a presentation of Off the Hook Sports,
What?
YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the free Off the Hook Sports app. Back to Dave Hooker.
Played a drop and played a drop instead of the rejoin. My apologies to Ray Varner Ford. They're fantastic. Excuse me. Go ahead.
And,
I'll tell you why here in just a second. Go ahead.
I just dropped a poll question based on our chat, and because I want to know what people think. But what result is more important Tuesday, the election or the first college football playoff rankings? There's only one right answer.
Yeah, it's definitely the college football playoff rankings.
Absolutely, the college football playoff rankings, guys.
Yeah.
If you're watching the election results over the college football playoff rankings, are you even a college football fan?
I don't know, but if Tennessee's 7th or better, be huge. Huge. All right, so hit the like and subscribe button. We appreciate it when you do that. Be a part of the program. No, well, I played the wrong thing. What's your favorite fruit, Caleb? And don't say somebody's name.
That's horrible. No, I would never do that. Probably apples. I like apples. Love apples.
I'm an orange guy, but here's the downside of orange and why I played the wrong thing a second ago is you don't know if oranges have gone bad. So when I put a half of a little orange in my mouth, it's gone bad. So I was a little bit shocked and have a terrible taste in my mouth right now. So that's where we are. Chattanooga Mortgage, congratulations. Your home search just got easier. Buying a home in Chattanooga has never been easier. Chatmortgage.com right below. Chatmortgage.com. As we turn our attention to the Vols. See, Caleb and I are not, I don't think, on the same page at all. We'll see. Is Tennessee's win versus Kentucky glass half full or half empty? What the H?
What the? What was he thinking?
Release the hounds.
The Dave Hooker Show.
Keep cool.
A presentation of OffTheHookSports.com.
All right, Caleb, half full or half empty? What was that game if it were a glass of Chardonnay?
Well, if you're trying to cut down on the alcohol and it's a glass of Chardonnay, I think half empty would be the positive thing. Okay, sorry.
True. You have the shakes and you want half empty. All right.
Yes.
Caleb, I know we're supposed to probably disagree on these things a lot. It drives traffic, but I think you're going to go the same direction as me, but I could be wrong. I think it's a glass half full. And I think it's clearly half full and maybe brimming at the top. Because Tennessee saw Nico take a step, which is almost as big as Tennessee winning the game, not quite as big. And I didn't feel like, given this defense, that Tennessee was ever going to lose it, despite the fact that it was theoretically close. So to me, it's definitely a half full.
I agree. I think it's half full. And let's not forget what this Kentucky team has done. They took Georgia to the wire and lost 13-12. Albeit at Georgia, fine. I'm sorry, albeit at home, albeit at Kentucky. But they also beat Ole Miss. And Dave, if not for that Kentucky win against Ole Miss, we'd be looking at Ole Miss as a top 5 caliber team right now. That Kentucky win is really holding them back. So yes, they lost to Auburn. Yes, they are probably not that great of a team, but they are that type of team, Dave, that they can really turn it up a notch in certain games at certain times, which they did against Tennessee. On top of that, I'll just say this. That was a 28-18 game. I don't know. Maybe it just felt different to me, but even though it was kind of a game, didn't it feel like Tennessee was really controlling Kentucky for the whole game?
It did. And I think you have to remember this. For Kentucky and Mark Stoops, that was a Super Bowl. You don't think they were given their season ultra focused on that game, Caleb, I can promise you they were. That changes the entire tenor of Kentucky's season, does it not? If they
The
win.
entire tenor.
If they win, it changes the entire tenor of their season.
I totally agree. Kentucky fans are satisfied going 2-10 and beating Tennessee. I think you and I would both agree with that, right? Whereas
Probably. Maybe a little bit more than that, but yeah.
Yeah, but you go to Tennessee fans and you say you can go 8-4, but you'll beat Alabama, or you can go 11-1, but your one loss is to Alabama, but you'll win the SEC title and you might go to the national title game. I think they'll take the latter. They'll take losing to Alabama for actual success. I think we all agree the 97 team is considered a more successful season than the 2001 team, even though the 97 team lost to Florida and the 2001 team beat Florida. Why? The 97 team won the SEC title.
Right.
So win. I think
Colton says something that's very wise. Tennessee is everyone's Super Bowl this year. There's something to be said for that. If Tennessee was an 8-4 team like they had been previously in the decade of dysfunction, shout out to Mark Nagy there, then you wouldn't say that. But now, as one of the top 10 teams or top 15 to begin the season, Tennessee is truly on everybody's radar, that if you win this game, you charge the field, a la Arkansas.
Yes, that's more like Tennessee of old. Like, remember, Dave, back-to-back weeks where Tennessee lost to LSU and Georgia on the road and both fan bases charged the field?
Yes.
And Georgia did it when Tennessee was 2-3 and Georgia was undefeated and in the top 10 or had one loss, I think, at the time. And they still stormed the field. So that's Tennessee of old. I agree. And I think Tennessee fans, look, yeah, they should be absolutely thrilled about just getting past this game with the win. Kentucky makes games ugly. They're capable of turning any game into a really hideous dogfight sometimes.
I agree, especially with he's still a redshirt freshman quarterback. I think he took a major step in the second half against Alabama last week against Kentucky, but you're still a redshirt freshman quarterback.
Yeah, no, I agree. You're still a redshirt freshman quarterback. And also, look, this is an offense that hasn't been able to get in sync all year, but they've shown flashes. I've always told you guys this, and I keep saying it. Offenses that show flashes, they can put it all together at any point. Defenses that show flashes but are bad, if they're bad, they're bad. That's period, end of story. If they're bad in September, I mean, what was the rule, Dave, when you covered spring practice back in the day? It was always a red flag if the offense was ahead of the defense, wasn't it? Always.
Yes. Huge red flag.
Yeah. And so that's not the case here. The offense can put it together. The best example I give you, and I keep saying this, is, Dave, the Giants' 2 Super Bowl wins in the NFL. I think you and I both know those teams. Wasn't the offense pretty much just mediocre the whole season until January? And then they just kind of put it all together?
Their defense played Eli Manning into the Hall of Fame. And this defense right now is playing Nico into the college football playoff and perhaps deep into the college football playoff.
Exactly. And the philosophy of the Giants was the offensive talent is there, but it's going to be consistent. Let's stay afloat. Let's keep the team afloat. Just good enough.
You said offense. Defense. I think you meant defense.
Well, no. The defense was good, period. The offense was good enough to where if they put it all together, they could be great, but you didn't know when they would.
Okay, but along those lines, that offense was good when they hit the postseason. Okay.
That's what I mean.
Yeah. Okay. So can this offense replicate that? Can this offense go from whatever you would think it is? What is it? It's probably, we'll look it up. Do you think they can be considered an elite offense by the end of the year? Let me ask you that.
Yes, because they're showing flashes. And I guess that's what I was asking you. You watch a lot of NFC East football. Wasn't it true that both those times, like, even though the Giants would struggle offensively during the season, you would see flashes of greatness, wouldn't you? Where you thought, man, if they could just put this all together, they could be really, really, really good.
Here's the thing to remember. Tennessee, guess where Tennessee is in total offense in yards per game in the SEC?
Where?
Just guess.
4th? 3rd?
Pretty good. They're 3rd. With offensive tackle issues, with a redshirt freshman quarterback, and a lot of mistakes and drops. So they're averaging 474 yards per game, 3rd in the SEC behind Ole Miss and Arkansas. And let's be honest, Ole Miss has had a lot of inflated numbers this year. they can be, by the end of the year, the top offense in the SEC.
But to push back a little bit on that, how much of that is inflated by their non-conference play?
A good bit. I mean, no, I won't argue with that. A good bit, but still, a lot of these teams have played poor non-conference teams. So even if you grade,
I think Tennessee's had one of the worst, honestly.
Yeah. No, I agree.
By non-conference standards, they've had one of the worst.
Totally agree. But even if you graded it on a curve and said top half of the SEC with all the issues they've had, I would argue that's good. Work trucks, yes.
Not to mention, we also have to add this part too with offense. Tennessee's SEC schedule has been significantly easier than a lot of other SEC teams. I mean, that's the other part we got to throw in here. The best team they played was Alabama, but they haven't played Georgia yet. They're avoiding Texas on the year.
Do me a favor.
They don't play Texas A&M and LSU.
Do me a favor. When I tell people about Work Trucks, look up strength of schedule because I want to see where it pans out now. Work Trucks, all about trucks that are actually available, trucks that help you maximize your profits by having the right work vehicle. Now, what the H? Why would you go anywhere but Work Trucks? Time is money. The perfect work vehicle doesn't break down, has all the space to carry what you need. That's what Work Trucks is intent on offering, while other dealerships can't do it. Contracting is about time. Work Trucks saves you time, less back and forth trips, trucks that pass the highest standards to be put to work. The process is quick and easy when choosing a vehicle for work trucks, cargo vans, utility body trucks with an app-tied work bodies installed, pickup trucks of all sizes, and anything special like cranes or dump trucks. Work Trucks supplies vehicles to people just like you and get you back on the road tomorrow in a dealership runaround. If you're a contractor, you got to know about Work Trucks. That's a fact. Service industry, Work Trucks. Work Trucks carries the trucks that your business has to have. You need Work Trucks. Clinton Highway in Knoxville and downtown Birmingham. For the entire inventory, go online to worktrucksllc.com with an X, worktrucksllc.com. Don't risk chancing your future in business on the wrong piece of equipment that burns your time. Worktrucksllc.com. Proud supporters of the Tennessee Vols. They'll get you outfitted to a T. Work Trucks with an X, LLC.com. Where does Tennessee strength of schedule rank, Caleb?
So if you throw out predictive modeling, you just throw in currently and use the FPI model, their strength of schedule is 33rd, which is actually better than I thought, interestingly enough. But okay.
So where's Ole Miss's?
Ole Miss's strength of schedule is, and they're shockingly low in the FPI rankings, by the way, but their strength of schedule is.
Well, I'm shocked. They haven't played anybody.
That is true. Sorry, I'm having trouble looking at. They're one spot ahead of Tennessee. They have the 32nd ranked strength of schedule based on the FPI.
Okay. So I mean, to me, that's obviously negligible, right?
Yeah, that's totally negligible. Teams ahead of Tennessee: Georgia, Kentucky, Oklahoma, Mississippi State, South Carolina, Florida, Alabama, Vanderbilt, Arkansas, LSU, Texas A&M, Auburn, Missouri, and Ole Miss. So we're talking Tennessee has the second worst schedule in the SEC as of right now. Only to Texas, which has by far the worst schedule in the SEC. They're all the way down at 54.
Okay, but again, they're around 35th, did you say, in the nation?
33rd in the nation.
33rd. Yeah. I mean, that's not bad. That to
me, it is, but we're ranking among SEC teams, and they have the second easiest schedule of all SEC teams.
Right. But to me, if you're 33rd in the nation, then the discussion's kind of over. You're not like 107th. That would be different.
No, that is true. You're right. But no one from the SEC is ever going to be 107th, to be fair. But look, I'm with you. I'm still glass half full guy. By the way, also, even though Tennessee has the second worst strength of schedule, it's not like the teams they played they played some of the better defenses in the SEC, to be fair. I mean, like Kentucky and Oklahoma stand out for that.
Timothy said, I'm actually I'm more worried about Vanderbilt. We'll definitely get into that. We're not going to look that far ahead, but we are looking ahead when it comes to Quincy Calhoun's college fund. So thanks for the super chat. It will go to that. And now I want to get to stat of the day. Stat of the day is brought to you by our fantastic friends at Double D Piping Fire Protection Contractors, providing around-the-clock service, protecting customers' lives and properties at all times. DoubleDPiping.com, DoubleDPiping.com. Give us a tease, Caleb, what the stat of the day, the red hot stat of the day brought to you by Double D Piping is about.
It's defense related once again, because defense wins championships, and Tennessee is absolutely balling with its defense, considerably so.
That's hot.
Double D Piping provides full-service fire protection on any scale. From residential homes to government facilities, we can assist any customer through design, fabrication, installation, inspection, and demonstration of fire suppression systems. With 30 years of service across 5 states and a full staff with over 40 years experience, our quality can't be beat. Don't get caught watching what you could have prevented. Call Double D Piping, the absolute best in fire prevention.
All right, Caleb, what do you got? Stat of the day brought to you by Double D Piping.
That's hot.
Oh, you're going to love this one, Dave. You're going to love this one.
I love all your stat of the days. You bring heat each and every day.
That's hot.
Tennessee has not just the best defense in the nation, which they may have possibly. They have an insanely good red zone defense. I mean,
yeah,
incredibly. Guess what the touchdown percentages of teams that reach the red zone against Tennessee is?
Touchdown percentage, I'm going to say 20%.
No, it's higher than that. It's 32%. However, nobody else is below 40% in the nation. Yeah, Tennessee gives up a touchdown 32% of the time teams reach the red zone on them. Nobody else is below 40%. Tennessee is third nationally in red zone defense, period, in terms of scoring. At teams only score 64% of the time they reach the red zone. That's including field goals, guys. They only score 64% of the time. That's best of any team in Power 5. I mean, the red zone defense is insane.
That is insane. Tennessee's defense ranks ranks fourth with 271 yards allowed per game. That's second in the SEC, fourth in the nation. That's behind Texas, Ohio State, and Indiana. Here we go, Hoosiers. I guess we're going to have that conversation.
Yeah,
Indiana's ranked above. I'm just going to go ahead and tell you, if Indiana's ranked above Tennessee in the college football playoff rankings, then I'll vote for the person that I'm not going to tell you who I'm not going to vote for. All right, Caleb, let's get to Bank on It. Bank on It, brought to you by Commercial Bank. Commercial Bank member FDIC. Life made better. I wrote a column about this today that is on the website offthehooksports.com. I believe that if Tennessee's fans, particularly the student section, don't act a little bit better, that it could actually, Neyland Stadium could actually hurt Tennessee when it comes to the college football playoff selection committee's decisions. I'll tell you why, but bank on it. Brought to you by Commercial Bank.
Commercial Bank is your neighborhood bank. What makes us different from other banks? We understand that every customer has unique opportunities, challenges, and financial concerns. We don't expect you to fit into the same box as the next person or business. Whether it's purchasing a home, saving for your child's future, or planning for your next vacation, we're with you every step of the way to navigate life's big decisions. Commercial Bank. Life made better.
All right, Caleb. So for the record, our poll question, 79% say it's half full, 21% say half empty. We appreciate the votes. I'll reset that with, can Neyland Stadium work against the Vols? You've got a clip of a young man who was down and there's some chanting. Can we go ahead and play that? This is Tennessee's student section over the weekend. Caleb?
Yes, and you may want to cover your ears, but this is what happened with the Kentucky player down over the weekend.
Well, do we release the statement that he did, and justifiably so.
Okay, there we go. So you heard it right there.
We don't have to repeat it, yes.
Yeah, if you didn't, you can repeat it. And Tom Hart made reference to it, the play-by-play announcer on ESPN, that Tennessee's fan base was lacking a little bit of decorum. That was mostly the student section, but I'm sure it was some other people as well. Tennessee rushed the field, charged the field in a win against Alabama this year, which was silly because Tennessee has outplayed Alabama in an entire game in 2022 and for half a game last year. And they just beat a good team. It wasn't an incredible upset. They just beat a good team, and they charged the field. There's a reason the SEC hands out fines for charging the field. They don't want that. theoretically, although I do think it shows excitement and passion. I think you're at a point that, let's say, for instance, a college football playoff game could be held at Penn State or Tennessee. I thought that Neyland Stadium would be the deciding factor in a decision like that. Let's say they're 8 or 9, and they're not going to place the teams as they should be placed, Caleb. They're going to place them where they want to place them. So don't think that, Tennessee has a better schedule, they're ahead of Penn State. If that were to be the case, there's going to be no other factor with that 8 or 9 game other than where do they want the home game, right?
Correct. Yeah. I mean, there's so much. It's so easily arbitrary.
Yes, and you could probably say the same thing for 7 and 10. If it's Indiana and Ohio State, I'm just throwing that out there. They're going to pick Ohio State. They're not going to pick Indiana, but definitely the 8 or 9. So I ask you this: Could Neyland Stadium start to work against Tennessee in the college football playoff? I believe it can if there's another good option, and Tennessee's fan base, the same fan base that threw golf balls at Lane Kiffin in 2021, continues to act like goofballs.
I'm going to take the opposite approach, by the way, on this. I'm not saying the way Tennessee fans behaved was okay. Saying that, I get the frustration, but you know, just because guys, Tennessee fans, I'm going to say this up front. Players are manipulating the rules. There's now SEC punishments for faking injuries. You can't blame players for taking advantage of rules they can try to take advantage of. I mean, that's what you're taught to do in any situation. You've educated me on this, Dave. The college football playoff is a TV show. Mm-hmm. Nothing is better for the TV show than a fan base that behaves a way that it's not supposed to behave. And
you might have flipped my argument on that, to be honest with you.
Yes, I think they would give Tennessee fans a home game just on the off chance that Tennessee fans act a certain way. And you don't want to give Penn State a home game because, as you have aptly pointed out, if it's a night game, you don't want a bunch of white shirts filling up the stands looking like a Klan rally. Okay.
Well, I didn't see any hoods, but well, let's take those two teams for instance. You may be right, and you may be onto something. It is funny to me that the SEC fines schools for when fans charge the field, but then what do, Caleb? They own the SEC network, and they show charging the field 1,500 times on a Saturday. So I don't know that technically Disney owns the SEC network, but let's be honest. I mean, I think that Greg Sankey can call a couple shots if he wants to, and right now he's not calling the shots to get those field charging clips brought down. So that's a fair point. Would it be better theater, better television if you had golf balls being thrown at James Franklin? Maybe it would.
Oh, I think it would. And I'll just give you an example of this. The 2004 Pacers-Pistons Brawl. That is the greatest moment in sports history to me. You know, and from a hilarious standpoint. Ron Artest goes and beats up the wrong fam. You saw Bill Walton in that broadcast. This is a disgrace to the NBA. David Stern suspending everybody. This is horrible. Such a bad look. We're going to put in a dress code, and we need to behave ourselves. The next year, they put all 4 Pacers-Pistons games on ESPN. All 4 of them. They wanted all 4 on national TV because they wanted all the eyeballs tuned in. As much as it was a disgrace what happened, if they really cared about the fighting, Dave, don't you think they'd have pulled that off of ESPN the next year and said this game's not going to be on TV?
Probably.
Yes.
At least ESPN is kind of on their own in that regard. I don't think they're ruled by the NBA. I think
the NBA works with ESPN for scheduling purposes to negotiate which games will get on on national TV every day. They have to determine that.
No, I agree. Now, a couple of things that have been said on the message board is that the narrative by the media about the fake injuries was the issue. Well, no, not really. The SEC did send out a memo to all of its schools saying that it will not be tolerated and there'll be fines and possibly suspensions. Now, they did also leak that to Yahoo Sports late in the day on Friday. So that's called a news dump. They didn't want that to necessarily come out, but they knew it was going to come out. So why not do it on a Friday afternoon? In this day and age, I don't think that really news dumps work anymore. I think that people hear about it on their phone. They're like, oh man, Sankey's upset. So that's not good. And if I guarantee every Kentucky player that's down is faking an injury, But Caleb, all three of the injuries that I recall, the guys missed significant time. I didn't think that any of the injuries were faked or feigned against Tennessee. Did you?
I thought there was a couple where a couple Kentucky players faked it a little bit, but just
the one I will give you is the one you played. And the reason I'll give you that is because Mark Stoops ran out there. That was almost like covering things up to say, oh, I'm really concerned about him. I will
agree.
give you that one, but none of those guys played on the very next play or later in those drives. I paid very close attention. And the one safety I thought really wanted to play.
Well,
Obviously,
maybe they didn't.
Obviously, Brock Vandegrift wanted to play.
Maybe they didn't. Maybe they didn't play because Mark Stoops told him not to play because he didn't want to get fined. And he has a better case against the SEC if he doesn't let him play.
Well, and they lost the Brown guy too, which that's his name, not the color.
They lost the Brown guy.
Not necessarily the color of his skin, although that's just a coincidence. But yeah, he was out as well, but he was legitimately hurt. I'll be honest with you. I've seen some Ole Miss games where I'm just like, man, this totally disrupts the flow, and it's obvious. You would at least say, right, Caleb, that it wasn't obvious that if Mark Stoops was in your office, in your studio right now, and he said, I'll lay my hand on a Bible, I did not tell anybody to feign an injury, you would probably say, okay, I kind of believe you, right?
No, I think he would just break. I don't think. Do you think a football coach is beyond breaking a swear on the Bible?
No, I just don't think I would believe him based off what I saw with my own two eyeballs.
I wouldn't put it past him, put it that way. Maybe he didn't do it, but I'm not, for him to say that, I wouldn't sit there and say that he would never tell a player to fake an injury. I mean, I just look here, and David Michael says it right. It's the old crying wolf tale as old as time. People, I think Tennessee fans are so frustrated by what they've been seeing that even now when it's legitimate, they're like, I just can't bring myself to believe them because they've seen it so much and it's really hampered their offense and what Josh Heupel wants to do. The golf ball incident with Lane Kiffin, by the way, a couple of years ago, Dave, the underrated part of that was that the officials probably made the right call on that fourth down play on where they spotted the ball. It was about a fourth down where they were upset with the spot. The reason Tennessee fans were so mad was because the officials were so horrible throughout the game that, and then Kiffin was doing the faking injuries that just got compounded with just a level of frustration that honestly you couldn't contain, largely because there was you probably don't remember this, but there was a strip sack play in that game that should have been run for a touchdown, but the officials accidentally blew their whistle, so it was ruled dead before the strip sack even happened. I mean, there were just some really bad calls. And so that fourth down call that was probably the right call, but was close, was so upsetting to Tennessee fans because they were so frustrated at how it had projected the entire game. I think the chanting from Tennessee fans is coming more from a level of anger of just how things have gone. Now, what I would say is that, look, I don't know what we've talked about it. We don't know what the solution is. That kid probably may have been really hurt, but at the same time, they're seeing it so much. And then at the same time, you can't really blame the kids for faking injuries because it's something to do within the rules. I mean, the SEC is going to start fining players, but Dave, let's be honest. It's a national championship game, or it's the SEC championship game, but the college football playoff berth or something like that. I think they talked about like $100,000 is the fine. Isn't a signing bonus worth more than that if you make the college football playoff coach if you're a head coach?
Yeah.
Like
that. Now, the poll question that was up, can Neyland Stadium work against the Vols? And give us an update on that because my screen just went blank.
No, too good of a home crowd, 70%. Yes, too much, 30%. No, I'm with the yes, too much. I'm with the no, too good of a home crowd. And again, I think the craziness of the fans is going to be ESPN's going to have they're going to put the camera on the fans the whole time. They're just going to wait for something to happen. It reminds me of like when there are political candidates that drive a bunch of energy, like both sides, and you expect protest, then cable news outlets would say, you know, they would cover the rallies before anybody even said anything of substance because they wanted to see if a fight was going to break out at the rally. I mean, that's just what happens. And honestly, look, even rest in peace, the Jerry Springer era of the 90s has taken over television now. And everybody wants that. Everybody wants to see it. And it's an appeal to the lowest common denominator, and ESPN and the college football playoff, like everybody else, they can sit there with their suits and their pens and their pads and like, we just judge the teams based on how they play, and we believe in a certain way of playing football.
The voice.
At the end of the day, at their roots, they want the ugliness and the salaciousness for the ratings.
Ryan said Georgia also showed lack of class when DJ Lagway went down. Florida's quarterback chanting, "You deserve it," as he was being carted off the field. Well, that is bad. I mean, that's pretty bad. So, but listen, there are all kinds of issues that can come up in the world's largest cocktail party. The police just decided they would beat the ever-living hell out of two fans. So, I mean, with repeated punches, that was pretty interesting. Okay, so new poll question. We talk about class. Which fan base has the worst class? Georgia, Florida, or Alabama? Or, unfortunately, Tennessee. And Tennessee's already getting some votes. That's a little bit surprising.
I would have dropped Alabama. I don't think Alabama fans are classless. They can be annoying. But I've never have you ever been to an Alabama game, Dave, and seen Alabama fans physically or verbally abusing anybody on the other side?
No, I can't say I have. As a matter of fact, I would probably say they're the best out of this list. I would actually say Tennessee is the best out of this list.
I'm not
just saying that because I cover Tennessee. I really think that.
Yeah, you Unsung said this and said it right, and you forgot one. LSU has the worst fans. They have the worst.
I think they're the best fans. I thought about putting them on there because they were the rowdiest, but I thought they were the best. When you're going to the stadium, every single tailgate will say, "Would you like to come over and get something to eat? Would you like to come over and get a drink?" I'm like, "No, I'm working, but yes, I will take some."
But ask the players. Do you remember the comeback Monday night game when what happened when LSU fans were pelting the bus with eggs and pelting players? Yeah, that LSU and when one LSU fan shoved Cedric Wilson when he stormed the field after they beat Tennessee in 2000. Their fans are horrible. They may be nice to other fans. The nicest I ever saw LSU fans, I was actually at the game in 2010, the 13-17 men on the field game, whatever. And LSU fans, after Tennessee lost that game, were trying to console Tennessee fans. They're like, "Y'all stick with Dooley. He's a real good guy." I'm like, okay, now y'all just know you're lying on this. Okay.
Yeah, that was Rick Pitino-esque when he said, "That Wade Houston, he deserves another year for sure, and he'll deliver." Speaking of delivery, the UPS store Hardin Valley can handle your deliveries, helping individuals and small businesses. The link right below on Hardin Valley. Wide range of products and services, locally owned and operated by Tennessee fans. So certainly check them out. The show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com. Coming up, the SEC Power Rankings. I want to see where Tennessee is. Week 10 college football recap and more. Stay tuned. He's Caleb Calhoun. I'm Dave Hooker. Give us 2 minutes. The show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com.
Now in its 45th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Neubert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that.
Joe Neubert Collision Center.
2024 F-150 4x4 Super Crew STX, $46,994. 24 Ford Expedition XLT, $59,978. 24 F-250 Crew Cab 4x4 STX, $57,888.
Local you trust, performance you can afford.
Hi, I'm Rick Terry, and we at Rick Terry Jewelry Designs pride ourselves in the highest quality craftsmanship from a family-owned business here in Knoxville for over 35 years. At Rick Terry Jewelry Designs, we also take pride in being an affordable option for all your game day accessories, especially those fire opals. At Rick Terry Jewelry Designs, we want to be your jeweler every day and especially on game day. Go Vols!
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard heating and air conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air. Dare to compare.
With our brand new location on Emory Road, Eye Care Optical is bringing East Tennessee's best eye care to your neighborhood. Doctors Johnston and Combs offer unmatched expertise and care without a trip to Knoxville. Eye Care Optical, now in Powell.
Double D Piping provides full-service fire protection on any scale. From residential homes to government facilities, we can assist any customer through design, fabrication, installation, inspection, and demonstration of fire suppression systems. With 30 years of service across 5 states and a full staff with over 40 years experience, our quality can't be beat. Don't get caught watching what you could have prevented. Call Double D Piping, the absolute best in fire prevention.
That's hot.
The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys. Play to win, banksjones.com.
He tries very hard. The Dave Hooker Show.
All I know is when we win a game, it's a team win. When we lose a game, it's a team loss.
A presentation of Off the Hook Sports.
Sideline! Touchdown! Unbelievable!
YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the free Off the Hook Sports app. Back to Dave Hooker.
SEC Power Rankings coming up, and we'll look back at the college football weekend and how Tennessee was helped or hurt by the goings-on somewhat in the Big Ten. Did anybody really sit down and watch that Ohio State-Penn State game? Because Caleb and I have to pay attention to that. But I will tell you this. I'm sorry, Georgia's considerably better than both of those teams, and they're a quarterback away. Now, we can have the Texas argument if you want to, and we can have the Oregon argument if they rematched against Texas, who they beat, so I don't think you can go there. But if they played Oregon, well, we can have debates about all of these teams. But I will tell you right now that I don't think Ohio State or Penn State, after watching them really closely throughout the season, I don't think they're one of the top 5 teams in the country, either one.
No, I don't either. I think Oregon's actually very clearly the best team in the Big Ten, funny enough. And I think they're the best. Too. Also, I'll say this, and this does not mean I've never believed in Ryan Day, really, but I know you always had questions about James Franklin. I think it's very clear Oregon's the best coach team in the Big Ten because that was, look, let's just call it what it, that was some horrid coaching by James Franklin in that game. I mean, he's going to make my football IQ tomorrow, guys, just so you know.
Did you see him scream at the fan and say, give me your name if you're man enough to say something to me? Did you see that?
I heard about it. I missed that part, though.
Yeah, it's on video. You can't do anything nowadays if you're a public figure and you're out in public because somebody's going to video it with their fan. But yeah, he's like challenging a fan in the stands. You talk about coming off the rails. I can't see Josh Heupel ever doing that. Can you?
No, never. I also want to address, speaking of fans and Penn State fans and things like that.
I've been cussed by fans, and I could get away with talking back to them on the field because I'm just Dave.
Right.
You know, you can't get away with it if you're Josh Heupel or Jenny Franklin or Nico or something like that.
Coaches got to be thick-skinned. They can't handle like melting down at fans. I agree. To address the fan part, by the way, on the side.
And then he also addressed, I'm sorry, Caleb, but he also addressed it in his post game. Like those types of fans can be thrown out of the stadium. That's why he wanted his name, because he wanted him thrown out of the stadium forever and banned.
That's very Butch Jones-esque, right? Melting down.
That is a great comparison. He's the Butch Jones of the Big Ten.
Yes, he is smarter than Butch Jones, but he's thin-skinned. I want to address some of the fan talk.
Let me just tell you, that helmet with the T on the side behind you, that helmet, that mini helmet is smarter than Butch Jones.
My dog is smarter than Butch Jones. But to the fan point that we brought up the last segment, Dave, I'll say this. Because people are bringing up Florida fans and I have brought up LSU fans. There's one reason those are the two most obnoxious fan bases, and you can track history of this. No, this is honestly true.
Okay.
Florida and LSU, more than any other schools, have played more night games than anybody because it's so hot down there. They just have to. They've always had to schedule night games, particularly in September. Night games are more conducive to more obnoxious fans. I do think this is true, Dave. As the future wanes on with with the SEC's new contract with ESPN, you're going to see all the SEC fan bases get and come across as way more obnoxious than Big Ten fans because you are more obnoxious for night games than you are noon games. Because guess what's happening with night games? You've been drinking all damn day and you are whacked out of your mind.
Drinking water.
Like, yeah.
Asia Cafe, treat yourself to authentic Asian cuisine, handcrafted from guarded family recipes, 5 locations to choose from. They also have karaoke night. My voice just cracked. Am I going through puberty again? I hope not. 6-to-1 Brazilian cocoa energy booster premix instant white coffee. You can order at asiacafe.org, asiacafe.org. So,
what's your karaoke song?
I've only sung karaoke once. I was talked into it. Was the DD for like a girls' party. Because I have a lot of girl friends from high school. And I was talked into Baby Got Back. And it was so horrible because I hate karaoke just in general. It was so horrible that they literally pulled me off the stage and took over and took the mic.
Guys, Dave gave off such a vibe. He goes to a karaoke place with a bunch of girls as friends, and he sings "Baby Got Back." Everybody thought you were gay at that place, Dave.
They picked the song. It wasn't me. I didn't pick the song. I didn't think of it that way. I would have thought of it as I was trying to hit on them, which I wasn't.
No, when it got one guy's with a bunch of girls, no one's thinking that.
Oh. Well, I'm secure where I am, so that's fine. Hit that like and subscribe button. We remind you that you can join Hooker's Corner and win great prizes like that Dylan Sampson mini helmet autographed by Dylan Sampson, just $9.98 a month. Plus, you'll be a part of Rick Terry's Grade 8 Garmin Challenge. Rick Terry, he wants to be your jeweler. That is right there on Kingston Pike. And we love Rick Terry Jewelry Design, rickterryjewelry.com. Looking for affordable game day jewelry, a Tennessee tradition. We'll give away a Garmin worth over $1,000 when we reach the 8,000 mark of subscribers. So we're close to that. Could be a month or two. rickterryjewelry.com. Be a member of Hooker's Corner to be eligible for that prize and to be eligible for the monthly prizes like that mini helmet autographed by Dylan Sampson, brought to you by Sports Treasures, carrying over 5 million sports treasures and so much more. Follow on Facebook for the best sports memorabilia. Daily updates, it is right down below. Sports Treasures TN on Facebook. Sports Treasures TN. Caleb, SEC power rankings are now. I'm going to agree or disagree with you. By agree would be hey now, and disagree is either
that's crazy
or
you suck. You dugout.
All right, give me like 16 through 10. Let's get this ship moving.
Okay. Well, I'll stop at 11 because I think 10 we got to be fair to. So 16 through 11. Mississippi State's still the worst team in the SEC. I don't think there's any debate about that.
Yes.
Auburn is the second worst team in the SEC. They're number 15. No debate about that. I know they played hard, but because of how everything else went over the weekend, I still got Kentucky down at number 14 in the SEC right now.
That's crazy.
I test they're better than 14. Let me see who you got at 13.
You could maybe talk me into them at 13 because I have Oklahoma at 13. And
I would say with Brock Vandegrift, if he's out extensive time, I would say Kentucky. If he's back, I would say Oklahoma's the worst between the two. But I know that's a lot to get into. We may not even know if Brock Vandegrift's okay. He was walking kind of kooky there on the sideline. All right, what's next?
By the way, did you know that Jalen Milroe is the only quarterback to finish a game against Tennessee this year that started?
I actually did know that. That's pretty stunning. Yep.
All right, number 12 is Arkansas. I know they gave up a lot of points to Ole Miss over the weekend, but I mean, Ole Miss that's more about when Ole Miss decides to play, and when they don't, Arkansas can still be a dangerous team at any given moment.
Hey now.
The other thing that's about is at some point you break the levee, and Lane Kiffin wanted to pile on points. I don't know the halftime score off the top of my head, but I guarantee you 2 of those touchdowns scoring 55 points were not needed. Fair to say?
I agree. I totally agree. Number 11 I have Florida up at number 11 right now. You may have them lower, but they played Georgia close thanks to Carson Beck throwing a bunch of interceptions. Dave, I actually have to send I'll send this when I get to Georgia because it's going to be funny because there's this funny tweet that came out about Georgia about Carson Beck. But Florida's number 11 right now.
That's crazy.
They're worse than that.
Which of those teams would you have? Kentucky over Florida? Oklahoma? I mean, Florida just beat
Kentucky over Florida. I'd have Oklahoma over Florida.
I can't. Florida just beat Kentucky 48-20 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. Okay. Well, no, I see where you're coming from, but I look at that Florida team and they're I will give you this. You need to root for Florida because they're fighting for Billy Napier for whatever reason. And that's good if Billy Napier keeps that job. So you need to root for the Gators, not only for Tennessee's strength of schedule, but lack of strength of opponent in the future.
That's true. That's a good point. Okay,
I mean,
so
seriously, if Josh Heupel and Billy Napier sit down to play chess, how many moves does it take Heupel to beat Billy Napier? I'm going to go with the over-under 7.5 and doesn't have to pull the queen out.
I'll go over 7.5. Okay. Now Butch Jones under 7.5, but I think Billy Napier's smarter than Butch Jones. How about that? I think he's smarter than Butch Jones. He's smarter than Butch.
I want to go equal, short bus, both of them. All right. Who's next?
We can't make short bus jokes. Okay.
I didn't mean that. Okay, go ahead.
I like PC Police Dave. I don't mean to do that, guys. But
I know.
yeah,
I accidentally said midget. I'm sorry, the M word last week. Go ahead.
All right. So number 10. I got Vanderbilt at number 10. Congratulations to them for staying in the top 25. Dave, you ready for this stat?
Yes.
In 2022, Diego Pavia beat Hugh Freeze at Liberty 49-14. Last year, while with New Mexico State, he beat Hugh Freeze at Auburn 31-10. And then this year, while the quarterback at Vanderbilt, he beat Hugh Freeze at Auburn again. So Diego Pavia has beaten Hugh Freeze each of the last 3 years when either of them was on a different team. He owns Hugh Freeze and he owns the state of Alabama because on top of those 3 wins, he also beat Alabama earlier in the year. Diego Pavia just owns Alabama pretty much.
All right.
State.
Yes, he does. I saw that, and they should have recruited him. By the way, the new poll question: I'm rooting for Florida blank to help Vols' strength of schedule to keep Billy Napier, or I just can't root for Florida. Caleb, who's next?
Who is next is number 9 is Missouri. They're number 9 right now. I have them ahead of Vanderbilt just because of that time they beat Vanderbilt, but they're number 9.
Yeah, that's a pretty incredible fall from Missouri, who, listen, I didn't think was one of the top 2 or 3 teams in the SEC, but I thought they were in the top half.
Hey now.
All right, who's next?
All right, number 8, South Carolina. I told you they were going to put up a fight against Texas A&M, but even I didn't believe they were going to beat Texas A&M like that.
What a shakeup.
Hey now.
All right, I'll give you them.
Number 7 is now we get to the 2-loss teams that the teams that are all in contention for the college football playoff. Now, technically, Missouri is in contention for the college football playoff, but they're not really in contention for the college football playoff.
I don't like their chances.
Yeah. So number 7 to me is Ole Miss. I think they're the worst of the teams right now in contention for the playoff. I'm not changing from last week. They still have that home loss to Kentucky. Still the worst loss of any team. None of the other teams would come close to losing that game that are in this race.
I think Ole Miss feels better than where you have them, but the Kentucky loss was bad. All right, what's next?
Yep. Number 6 is LSU. Didn't play this week. They did lose to Texas A&M last week, but they're still in it, and I still think they could, if they beat Alabama, they're right back to where they were before. So LSU's number 6.
Yep, I agree with that.
Hey now.
Number 5 is I dropped Texas A&M to number 5. I don't overreact to these type of games like the loss to South Carolina. That was a dangerous game for them from the start. When you have such an emotional win the week before, you're traveling to a very good South Carolina team for a night game. Not very good, but very dangerous. It's capable of these upsets. You're probably feeling yourself a bit. That's the type. This always happens, Dave, since the history of time. So I don't think
I would drop Texas A&M a little bit further. They have 2 losses on the season, right?
Yeah, but so does LSU and so does Ole Miss.
That to me feels like a hodgepodge where you could throw 3 and pull 1 out to see who's the highest ranked.
I'm head-to-heading it right now. Maybe that's unfair, but Texas A&M beat LSU and LSU beat Ole Miss. So
okay, fair. Who's next?
Number 4 is Alabama. They're back up at number 4, and if they beat LSU this week, they are right back with everything to play for. And that win over Georgia is looking better and better.
The SEC is down. Do you agree or disagree with that?
Oh, I agree. But, we're basing this off a few games, about 5 games that could have gone either way. We're basing this off, if Vanderbilt doesn't give up a last-second defensive touchdown to Georgia State, and if LSU and Texas A&M actually finish the job in their openers against USC and Notre Dame, we're not calling the SEC down. We're saying they're beating up on one another. All 3 of those games came down to 1 play.
All right. Who's next, Caleb?
All right, number 3, I got Tennessee at number 3 this week. I think they could be number 2, and they're capable of being number 1, and there's a lot to be encouraged about, but I had to drop them below Texas, who's at number 2, because even though Texas didn't play, That win over Vanderbilt kind of looks more impressive now since Vanderbilt's back in the top 25, even though it was ugly. I'd say beating Vanderbilt 27-24 on the road is more impressive than beating Kentucky 28-18 at home.
Agree with that.
Hey now.
All right, so 2-1. Georgia's got to be number 1, right?
Texas number 2 was number 2. Yeah, Georgia's
number 1.
Georgia's number 1.
Here's the interesting thing about Georgia. If Carson Beck doesn't deliver, we could be having a conversation that they're 5 or 6 at some point. I don't think Texas nor Tennessee could slip that far. Because I think Nico's taking a step, and I think Carson Beck's going the wrong direction.
Oh, I totally agree. I totally agree with you. My favorite tweeter, y'all know Hannah Cavender. She's a women's basketball player for the Miami Hurricanes. She is Carson Beck's girlfriend. And after the game, she posed with Carson Beck on the field and took a picture and said, QB is a QT. And in my mind, I'm like, maybe you need to like back off. Your quarterback played like, and so someone retweeted that and said, QB is SH.
Yeah.
And you know the word. So, yeah. So basically it's like, you don't need to really be bragging about your cutie QB who darn near lost your team the game on his team the game on Saturday.
Yep. SEC Power Rankings brought
Maybe
to
Hannah
you.
Cavender should pull a Kelly Stafford and, get the backup quarterback in there to kick Carson Beck into high gear. If y'all know what I'm talking about.
You're suggesting she should date air quotes.
Date. Get seen in the car with the backup quarterback. Have Carson Beck see her in the car dating the backup quarterback. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think Hannah Cavender should be.
Anytime I think of dates and cars, I think of Rex Ryan and the toe incident, the feet. Remember that?
What was that? What was that again?
Feet. He was with his wife at a park talking about her feet.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
Taking him out the door. Oh, love your feet.
Maybe that's why he started Mark Sanchez over Tim Tebow, because Tim Tebow did not have the best footwork.
TristarHatsCo.com.
TriStar Hats Co. product?
TriStar Hats Co. What's that?
You know, those really cool hats, shirts, tumblers, and even license plates with 3 stars like the official Tennessee flag and stripes like the American flag. Pretty patriotic if you ask me.
Ah, gotcha. Seen those. Those are cool. Where can I get them?
Simple. TriStarHatsCo.com. And if you order now, there's 10% on any order $50 or more. Plus, use the promo code HOOKED.
With the promo code HOOKED, you get 10% off. That's hooked.
And don't forget free shipping with any order over $50. Stock up at TristarHatsCo.com. That's TristarHatsCo.com. There are plenty of wannabes out there, so make sure you go to TristarHatsCo.com for the best quality and customer service.
Will do, and I'll be sure to use the promo code HOOKED. That's hooked when I do to save an additional 10% off. TristarHatsCo.com.
TriStar Hats Co. is a trademark of TriStar Hats Co. LLC. Any use without express written consent is prohibited.
I'm your Huckleberry.
Last look brought to you by Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Hahn. Look at me. No contacts, no glasses. I want to share something about Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Hahn. I at one point had high blood sugar, and I didn't know it, and the doctors didn't find it out, and it affected my vision. And they are the ones that pointed it out. So they care about you because they're local. So Doctors Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Hahn, ccteyes.com, ccteyes.com. Last look, we look back at the college football weekend. What do you got, Caleb Calhoun? What stands out the most?
Well, the first one, and it's a one that I just had to throw out because I like taking shots at them, and I know you like taking shots at James Franklin. But before we get to Ohio State, can we just say that Penn State still can't win the big one? Once again, they choked. And
so there's something like 1-24 under James Franklin and top 25. Do you have that stat? You look like
I forgot the number, but it's like against top 10. Put it this way: Penn State is the most par team in college football. Like they hit par more than anybody else I've ever seen in college football. Quite honestly,
they're Sergio Garcia. I think he won. He won one major, and they're not going to win a national championship. They're Sergio Garcia without the one major win. Who's next?
Yep. All right. Next is unfortunately for the SEC, though, as par as Penn State is, Ohio State beating Penn State expands the Big Ten map to get to the playoff because Penn State's not going to lose again. Ohio State's probably not going to lose again. So they'll both finish with one loss, meaning they're both probably in at that point. And so and Oregon's already in. So now the Big Ten is looking at 4 teams, which I'm about to get to.
All right. Last look brought to you by Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Hahn. We'll take a look at the SEC as well as we look back on the college football weekend.
To visit cctis.com. The information you need is easy to access, and setting an appointment is as simple as clicking the tab. Doctors Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Hahn, and Eye Care Optical at cctis.com. Simply the best.
All right, Caleb, what's next as we look back on the college football weekend?
One last Big Ten post before we're out of the Big Ten, but Illinois losing knocks them out of the playoff race. So that's good news. That's one team that's gone. They were one of the 20-something teams before the weekend.
Illinois wasn't going to make it,
But
Caleb.
yeah, but Dave, you say that, but now Indiana is now a favorite to make the college football playoff because they waxed Michigan State, and they only have Ohio State left on their schedule. It's either Ohio State or it's one of the big
Ohio
3
State
teams.
left. They could lose to Ohio State and still make it.
They're going to go 11-1. Indiana's probably in. So this is what I mean. That gives the Big Ten has pretty much a clear path to 4 teams in the playoff now. Ohio State, Penn State, Oregon, and Indiana. None of those teams are going to lose enough to get.
You know who Indiana feels
out.
like to me? It feels like Kansas State back in the day. I think they'll trip up and lose a game and fall short in the last month of the season, which Kansas State seemed to do each and every year.
Yes, but Kansas State would do that after winning their one big game that they shouldn't win. Because remember, they beat Nebraska, the 98 team did. That before tripping up against Texas A&M, that Kansas State team would have been in this year's college football playoff. So
right. I think Indiana will have 2 losses. I think they'll trip up against somebody they shouldn't, and I think they'll get beat by Ohio State.
That's hot.
Alrighty. So moving on.
That's hot myself. Yeah.
You did just hot yourself.
Yeah, you can't. That's hot yourself.
Just as Crawdad Watson had. We already had feet talk earlier in the show, and now Dave's like, that's hot.
Such a great big toe. All right. I mean, it was super creepy. Maybe a little extra Dave and Caleb. We'll get into that.
Wait, what? What?
No. I meant we'll play the clip. All right. What's next,
Caleb? All right. So, okay. So now getting to the SEC, Texas A&M losing to South Carolina, guys, has plunged the SEC into chaos. So Texas A&M lost, but Ole Miss, Tennessee, and Georgia all won. There are now 8 teams in the SEC with 2 losses or less. And the crazy part, Dave, is every single one of them has a path to the SEC title game. Every single one of them. Right. And there is a scenario where there's actually a scenario where they all end up 10-2. What happens if every team in the SEC is 10-2?
Wait, by every team, what do you mean?
I mean that all 8 teams, that 7 of the 8 finish 10-2. The only one that won't is Alabama and LSU because they have to play each other. But whoever loses that game whoever wins that game could win out. Ole Miss, 6 teams could finish 10-2 because Ole Miss is about to play Georgia, who's about to play Tennessee. What I'm trying to say is there is a plausible scenario where 6 to 7 teams in 10-2. And it's honestly likely that 6 end up 10-2 at this point. And it's almost impossible to pick the top 2 teams to go to the title. And by the way, those top 2 teams going to the title, however the SEC does it, that's going to be determinant in who makes the college football playoff. I mean, we're talking Georgia, Tennessee, Texas. We just did our SEC power rankings. LSU, Texas A&M, Ole Miss, Missouri, and Alabama. Guys, this could be a crazy scenario for the SEC. And more importantly, Missouri now could be in position to go to the SEC title too, which would make Dave's head explode because of their easy schedule.
That is total bullshit.
Missouri's not going to the college football playoff. Let me tell you what's going to happen. And I thought this the entire year. You're going to have at the end of the year 4 teams from the SEC to be 10-2. And those 4 are going to make the college football playoff. And the debate is if they'll take a 9-3 team. That's where this is going to end up.
Okay, let me ask you this, Dave.
Yes.
Ready for some chaos?
I love chaos.
Okay.
That's hot.
LSU, Alabama, say the winner of the loser is out of the playoff. The winner, say they went out and finished 10-2. Okay.
Okay.
They'd be 10-2, 6-2 of the SEC. Or if LSU wins, they'd be 7-1. But okay, so LSU, Alabama, winner wins out. Say Ole Miss beats Georgia this week. And then say Georgia beats Tennessee.
Okay.
And then say Texas A&M beats Texas. Texas A&M, Texas, Georgia, Tennessee, and then say Missouri wins out, which they're favored to do. You would have Ole Miss, Georgia, Texas A&M, Texas, Tennessee, and Missouri all finished 10-2. Plus
That's
the
how
winner
many
of Alabama
teams?
LSU. Plus
How
the
many
winner of
teams?
Alabama LSU. That's 7.
Okay, well, that's not going to happen. Somebody's going to
That's very possibly going to happen. The SEC is chaotic this year, and I'm here for it, baby. Bring it. I love chaos.
I love it. I'm down with it. I just think that somebody's going to upset somebody, right?
I mean, you would think, but it hasn't. I don't know where that could happen. Where it's very possible. I mean, again, Missouri's winning out. I'll just tell you that right now. Missouri's winning out. And do you think the only possible loss for them is at South Carolina, November the 16th? But so we'll have to see how that one goes. But yeah, there is some crazy chaos happening in the SEC right now, and I'm here for it. All right, so beyond the SEC, barring their chance to somehow back into the ACC title game, Clemson's done. They're over.
Done. They Clemson that game over the weekend.
Got blown up by Louisville. However, the ACC still has a path to 3 teams going because SMU beat the brakes off Pitt. Miami stays undefeated. Dave, what happens if Pitt goes and beats Clemson? Pitt finishes the year 11-1. SMU finishes the year 11-1. Miami finishes 12-0. SMU plays Miami for the ACC title. All 3 could go.
And how would that affect the SEC, do you think? Do you think the ACC could get an extra team in, whether that's 2 to 3 or 3 to 4, and that affect the SEC and number of teams they got in?
Yes, it would affect the SEC before the Big Ten because unless Indiana slips up, the Big Ten is going to have 4 teams 11-1 at the end of the regular season.
I know this isn't the way to do it, but just based off eye test and what they've done this year, wouldn't you take at least 5 teams over, say, Pitt or SMU?
I would take half the SEC and half the Big Ten over Pitt and SMU.
I would
not even think about it.
And I would take 33%. I would take a third. I don't think.
Okay, so you would take 6. You would take 6 Big Ten teams and 8 SEC teams. All I would too. But I don't know if the committee is going to do that. But yeah, Pitt is SMU beating Pitt really changes things. So the ACC has the door opened. On the other side, the Big 12 CFP hopes for teams that aren't that good but could be in the CFP race. They took a blowtorch to their chances to get multiple teams in this past weekend. Did you see Kansas State and Iowa State both lost to unranked teams?
Yes.
Kansas State, I believe now has 2 losses. Iowa State has 1. They still play each other. And so, but don't count out the Big 12 because there's still BYU just lurking around and Colorado still has 2 losses. And guys, I'm going to tell you, y'all are going to hate this, but a TV show, if Colorado's flirting with a top 12 spot, they're getting in. Who's not going to want to put Deion Sanders in for the show?
Totally agree with it. They've got a very clear path. And I'll be honest with you. I think it's a good storyline. I don't think they'll fare well among the 12-team playoff. But if you're looking for stories, interesting content, Deion Sanders would be it. And the fact that he got that program to a college football playoff. I thought that he would be able to win 6 or 7 games. I never thought that he would be in the 9 or 10 range and be among the top dozen teams in the nation. I know that there's some jockeying that goes on with that, so it's not truly the top 12 teams in the nation, but I never thought he'd make the college football playoff.
No, I didn't either. I didn't have this on my radar at all. And Adam's correcting me saying Clemson only has 1 ACC loss. If SMU loses a game, Clemson could still get a shot. I don't think SMU is losing again, Adam. Look at their schedule. It's terrible. So lastly, the last major takeaway is we go to the group of 5. Boise State is still leading the group of 5 college football playoff hopes after dominating San Diego State. Army won't go away. They had their quarterback hurt and still beat Air Force pretty easily over the weekend. Watch out for them. If you're Tennessee, put on your Boise State hat because there's a very good chance Tennessee gets the 5 or 6 seed and plays that group of 5 team in the first round, and you don't want it to be Army or Navy. You don't.
Yep. The college football playoff, by the way, the first rankings will be announced tomorrow. So we'll get into that more tomorrow. But where do you expect Tennessee to be ranked? Most people seem to think 8th or 9th.
I'm thinking 7th. I think they'll be number 7, honestly. I don't see it much different from the AP poll. I think maybe the one that may be ahead of Tennessee would be the 2 that they'd have to worry about that are below them in the AP poll, but could be ahead of them in the playoff rankings are BYU just for being undefeated and Notre Dame. Dave, I know you hate him, so you'll like me saying this. I still think Tennessee will be ahead of Indiana. Indiana has a god-awful strength of schedule, like one of the worst I've ever seen for a Power 5 school to this point.
Agree with that. He's Caleb Calhoun. I'm Dave Hooker. The show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you have the notifications on. We've got a lot of big things coming down the pike. And you can check out Cooper Mays. Also, there's not a better lineup of guests in all of broadcasting. Tomorrow, we'll visit with John Adams. The day after that, Jimmy Hyams. The day after that, Will West. And then we'll visit with Ollie Lane, Jacob Warren, each and every Monday. So be sure and make this a part of your day, weekdays at 10 a.m. If you can't be live, be sure and check out the whole show, not just the clips. He's Caleb Calhoun. I'm Dave Hooker, the show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, Banks & Jones.